Welcome, everybody. We have another interesting evening ahead of us. I've had an opportunity to listen to Ritu. If some of you were on last week, you might have heard a few of her comments. Looking forward to hearing more about her spiritually transformative experiences. Ritu came to my attention via Niraj, so I'm going to let Niraj be the individual who interviews or manages the conversation. Again, Mark said if you have questions as this goes along, feel free to put them in the chat. At some point, maybe about 40 minutes or so into the conversation, we will turn over to those questions and get to a Q&A period. So be thinking as you're listening. If there are questions you have, please put them in the chat room, and let's, is that what we want, Mark? Yeah, I think the chat room sounds fine. Okay. Niraj, I'll turn it over to you.
Sure. Thanks, Jim. Good evening, everyone. Welcome back to another session. Consciousness Cafe, is happy to invite and is blessed by the presence of Ritu. Ritu is a big proponent or a big, fan, as you would say, of finding divine and eternal love within, and her experiences in our life has been spent in finding those eternal truths. And Ritu, welcome. Thank you for joining us. We appreciate you. I know it's been close to the holiday season, so everybody's getting busy, and so is the audience here. I appreciate that you guys could make time here. So Ritu, before we get into that conversation about your experiences, why don't you just give us a background on your life and how you got to this point?
Have to make very long story short. So I'll start from the beginning. I can talk for hours. So I was born in India and raised in India, born in a Hindu family. Not very religious, and so I got lucky that way, not heavy duty religious doctrination, but the area that I grew in, and typically India is it's just like USA, it's all different religions live together. So I had exposure to all different religions, Muslim, Christians, and you are very friendly with all your friends are from different religions. So I did get to go to visit church sometimes, go to the masjid sometimes, go to the temple sometimes. So my parents were very okay with all of that, and there was no heavy duty involvement in religious practices of any kind, other than very special holidays. So my mind was very clear about that. The only difference with me being a real misfit in the surroundings within me was that I came with this innate knowledge of spirituality. I remembered some of my past lifetimes, and I had the knowledge that I am here, that we are all here to learn some things and to grow. And one of the lessons I have to learn is wisdom. I don't know where I had this word wisdom from. I didn't know what it meant, but I knew it. So I knew that my life will have lots of challenges, and there is no automatic out. So like people who commit suicide or die does not mean that you already got the pass, to you don't have to, there's no necessity to learn these lessons, that it will continue. So that was something that I knew very clearly without anybody telling me that. And there was actually nobody around me. There was no internet, cell phones, or anything like that. So whatever knowledge you could get was within your surroundings. And we didn't even have television at that time. There was just a tiny little radio. You would listen to songs, and some of the songs, it being India, So some of the spiritual songs were there, and that's where I picked up some of the words that resonated with me, like reincarnation and past lives. And so I didn't feel that it was so opposed to what I was feeling, but I didn't have any further explanation for it. And I also questioned the meaning of life. Why are we all here? And nothing made sense to me. That why are people leading such mundane lives and they are not questioning who I am? Why are we here? Why is everything happening the way it's happening? So these things really made me into a space cadet. I was always wondering, and I was a very quiet child. And what it did, which the reason I want to mention this particular thing of me being an empath and having this spiritual innate knowledge that I couldn't really get confirmation about in my surrounding or discuss with anybody, made me a very quiet, withdrawn, and terrified within myself, because I just could not understand anything that was going on around me. And that made me very open to be bullied and abused and traumatized. So I carried a lot of that emotional wounding, and me trying to fit in, make sense of things, which is what later on again became part of my journey after my spiritual experiences. And eventually I met my guru. He is an enlightened master, a perfect yogi. And I sensed this love and peace coming through him that I had never, ever experienced before in my life. And that,
so, Ritu, just not to cut you off, but how old were you when you first had that meeting with the guru that you were talking about? How old were you?
I was 21.
Okay. So you had gone through all of those, up to that point. So, not being comfortable around people, introverted, sometimes bullied because of your quietness. Like, talk something about some of those experiences that you might have, because I know a lot of people who were precocious growing up, and there are a few people around us in these forums who would you think that was part of the journey, that it was in some ways destined so that you would then get more introverted and think more about it? What's your life experience about that?
Well, my conclusion about that is yes, that we all come. It's like a movie set. I shouldn't say, it minimizes people's traumas and pain, but I feel I have the liberty to say that because I have been through pain and trauma, and then I can still sit here and say that it is really like a movie set where we design our life plan, what I'm going to learn, which environment I'm going to pick, and what challenges I'm going to put in front of myself that will help me in my journey, that whatever I'm seeking. And what I was seeking, my life path has been throughout self-discovery. Who am I? Who am I? And how else, if I had everything perfect and very supportive environment and all lovey-dovey,
yeah,
would not have had the motivation to be pain to push me to seek these answers. So I cannot say for everybody, and I do not want to trivialize or minimize anybody's pain or trauma. And the traumas that I have been through, I would not wish on anyone. But if anything, I am a testimony to that you can discover your truth and the joy and peace within yourself, regardless of what your life journey is or has been. And so
perfect. So I think we've kind of understood the background and how you led to the point. So I think again, a lot of people in this country have had I mean, there's always a guru, right? I mean, there's always talks about gurus, and gurus always tend to, end up badly. uh, Mostly that are popular here in the US. But again, coming from the culture that you are from, coming from India, I know there's a lot of gurus that are, they hide away from public. They don't want to be known. They don't want to be get caught up in what they call Maya. And they really want to, keep, continuing on their own path. So tell us about that meeting and how that kind of led to you being in that and being encouraged in that path. So let's talk about that experience.
So exactly, my guru has said that maybe 9 out of 10 so-called gurus are not really have the capacity to be the guru. And guru really means, it's made up of 2 words, gu and ru. It is one who removes your darkness. Darkness means ignorance. Ignorance of what? Not remembering who I truly am, that I am this cosmic absolute, and I have forgotten that. And the one who has the capacity to help you manage your consciousness, to bring you to that remembering, is a true guru. And so I lucked out. Now, there was a time period during my teenage years that my parents got very interested in going to different enlightened masters. And just like you said, Neeraj, most of them were just very quiet. They were really interacting with public. They would just be in their own little corners sitting. So I did get that feeling, that exposure over and over. I could tell the difference. What it feels like when you are in presence of a true enlightened master. So I was lucky to get that visitation to be in the presence of many masters, and I could tell the difference. And so
what was the difference, Ritu? I mean, I think a lot of misconceptions, and like I said, there's been a lot of fake false gurus that unfortunately have taken over the news, not only here but even in India back. So again, and I also remember that in the last OSS conversation, somebody asked me, like, how do you know? Like, how do you feel? Because you've had such strong transformative experiences, I think you're a better person to explain that. How did you know? Like, what was that feeling that you had, that you knew that this was the right place to be?
So one is the absolute feeling of peace and stillness and love, which I later on experienced in much greater degree. That's unexplainable. But just the purity and stillness, like when you are talking to us, we talk normal human beings, our mind is involved. And you can tell that there is a conflict inside everybody. You can see that there is some hesitation in the way we interact. You can tell that it's something that's coming from the mind. The presence of a true enlightened master, there is no mind. It's just pure beingness. The mind has dissolved into the cosmic consciousness. And so I can also talk about the 3 miracles I saw. Not that they impacted me, but it did tell me that in his presence, that all these miracles happen. So number one thing, when my family went to the ashram, it was still being built. And there was this very, very long unpaved road. And there was a little kitchen and a little sitting room for all the devotees to gather. So, and there was a big gate. So as we got out, we saw my guru walking. It was summertime, sleeveless shirt, just cotton, sleeveless, long robe wearing, and he's walking bare feet on this unpaved, rocky path all the way to meet us at the gate, open the gate for us, and bless us. And we thought that was phenomenal, that a guru, a saint of that stature, is coming all by himself to welcome us. And my mother made a comment about that. Like, look at the humility of this saint. And he brought us, we walked with him all the way to the sitting room. Right before we were entering the sitting room, he didn't walk into the room. He told us, well, you go sit inside, I'll be right back. We went and sat inside, and my mother mentioned to the lady sitting next to her, said, look at the saint, what his humility, his stature. And he came all the way to bless us. And that would have been at least 10 minutes walking all the way there, greeting us, welcoming us. And the lady looked at my mother and said, what are you talking about? He's been sitting right here. He just stepped away. As soon as you were walking inside the room, he stepped away. He was sitting right here. He didn't, and he's been here for 2 hours with us. He didn't go anywhere. So that was one. And then a little bit later, we started kirtan in the courtyard there's no roof. It's a big courtyard, and devotional singing. That's called kirtan. And everybody sat down. And suddenly I was sitting way in the back because I was just a very timid, quiet person up until then. And I see these black clouds. It's about to storm. So I am not interested in the singing at all. Understand about saints that much.
You wanted to get out of there.
Guru is. And so I am strategizing how I would be the first one to run inside the room when it starts pouring. And I couldn't understand, why is everybody still sitting here? No, we're all old-time devotees. This was my first time there. I couldn't understand, why isn't everybody packing up and hurrying up with all these instruments? They should be running inside. And then I somehow got involved in the singing. It was so beautiful. And then this torrential rain came down. And I looked, there wasn't a drop in that whole square where we were all sitting. And it was torrential rain everywhere else.
Wow.
So that was another one. And everybody was just sitting there like it's nothing, because they already had seen this thing happening so many times before. And then we are ready to leave. Everybody has gone towards the car, onto the unpaved road. I'm still right before the sitting room, and my guru is coming from the distance, from the other side, and calling me, tells me, Ritu, just wait a minute, you didn't take any prasad. Everybody took prasad. You know what prasad, it is like the consecrated offering, just like in the church, you get that wafer and the wine, blessed food. And typically it's a fruit or some sweets or some dry fruit. That's typically what it is. And so I said, okay, I stood, but there was nobody around. There was no food anywhere around. And he's telling me to stop, take some prasad. And I'm waiting for somebody to show up, because he's walking with nothing in his hands, just a sleeveless, very thin white robe. And so I was confused. It's like, okay, maybe somebody from somewhere will show up with some kind of food that he will take and give to me. Then he comes near me and he tells me, take prasad. And I cannot understand. What does he mean? There is nothing for him to give me as the blessed offering. So, but he says, like, give me your hands. And typically what you do is you do your hands like this, and I spread it in front of him. I didn't understand. And he did like this. He put his hand like this, and I had overflowing. Both my hands were overflowing with dry fruit.
Mhm.
So these were just some of at that time. And then I was just feeling this love that I had never felt before. So I felt encouraged to ask him a question. I said, is there actually a physical heaven and earth? Because I had been very worried about that until then.
Yeah,
Especially having visited church also.
Yeah, you were young. You wanted to know where you were heading, right?
So he looked at me for a few seconds, and he said, no, there is no physical heaven on earth. It's all your state of mind. Like, wow, I had never expected that.
Mhm.
But before I could really process it, I jumped on to another question. And then what he told me was he simply just shut me up forever. He said, all the answers are within you, my daughter. All the answers are within you. Go experience them for yourself.
Mhm.
There was such a finality to it. It wasn't just a simple statement, like it came with a force and energy that told me this is his final answer to me. I can no longer ask him any questions. And even if I do, no answers will be given to me. So, and then he initiated me. I had no clue what it meant. What he did, initiated me, is like he gave me a guru mantra. Mantra, we're all familiar with the word mantra. So it was like a Sanskrit chant, but when an enlightened master gives it, he's infused it with his cosmic divine energy. And it becomes like a custom medicine for you, for your purification to happen inside. So it could be the same mantra for 15 people, but it is customized energy infused. And when he does that, it is like a remote control, like you have allowed him the remote control of your energies. So he is always, always, always connected with you, no matter where he is. And
Ritu, just for a second. So, how does that relate to the whole surrendering, which a lot of different religions and customs have about you surrendering to that, whether it's a mantra or a person or a guru or what? So, in your mind, what do you think that was? Is he, or was he asking you to surrender yourself to the mantra or to his divine powers, or was there something else going on there?
At that time, I had no clue. I'm like, what is this? I don't know what am I supposed to do with this. I never heard about Guru Mantra, really. I had no idea what I was supposed to do with it. Later on, I have learned that there are very, very rare people who get that without even asking. He gave me the Guru Mantra. He initiated me. That's very rare that ever happens. So I had no idea at that time. But later on, when I started having spiritual experiences, and then I had my most transformative spiritual experience here in Dallas, in Texas, I experienced myself as the absolute, that everything is me and everything is love. And everything that is manifested from the unmanifest is overflowing drops of that love. So everything's essence is love and everything is me. So, and that everybody is that too. So everybody is the center without a circumference. No, everybody is everything and nothing. The void and the essence is love, and everybody is connected to its cosmic self. It's just we've forgotten it. And the journey of the self-discovery and the challenges that keep pushing us to ask the meaning of life, it's all designed to bring us to that remembering.
So yeah, Ritu, so you did talk about the guru. There's one question that has been posed. Is there any difference between, say, a guru who's practiced, or not, I wouldn't say practice, but a guru in the US versus a guru in India? Is there any qualitative or any other difference in that? I don't know how to even question that, but do you have any insight onto, what your feelings and what your experiences have been?
Yeah, so guru is of all different levels, right? Like even when we go to school,
yeah,
you have a teacher, kindergarten teacher, then you have high school teacher, then you have your PhD mentor.
Mm-hmm.
They are all teachers,
Mm-hmm.
but they are for different levels. And so within gurus, there are levels.
Mm-hmm.
And so you can be an enlightened master, but within that, you can still be perfecting. You can still be accessing different energies and different dimensions because it's infinite.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
The source is infinite. So the masters, even though, so one thing is to be enlightened where you remember, it's not just remembering that you are, I am the cosmic self, or I am the source. It's not just remembering, but becoming that, in becoming that state of being, your whole being becomes that. That is the true enlightened state.
Mm-hmm.
And beyond that also, there are some very, very rare few, like my guru, who will keep progressing. But for him, his enlightenment happened when he was 8 years old.
Mm-hmm.
But for next 30, 35 years, he continued to do his spiritual penance and practices in caves, in jungles, away from everybody. And so that's where he became a perfected yogi.
Mm-hmm.
Yogi is like you've mastered all the energies that are possible. So you become a walking, talking miracle, just like Jesus. Jesus could touch someone and heal. Consciously, he could do that. So in India, we call Jesus a yogi, mm-hmm. because he could touch someone and heal. All these miracles that he did. So you take some of the miracles that I have heard from Bible, multiply them, I don't know, thousands of times, is how many we have witnessed from my guru. Mm-hmm. Literally, person has died and he can revive him. He can be multiple places all over the planet.
Yeah, you were breaking up a little bit.
That's mastering the.
Sorry, is everybody feeling the same thing? Having trouble with
she froze for a minute. Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
You're good right now. I think there might have been some.
So I think I got to see the highest of the highest. So, yeah. So, and having spent time in his presence, it was a complete, no conflict ever. There's no such thing as a conflict. His every word, every action, just it's like flowing through the source.
Mm-hmm.
And there's the experience, the spiritually transformative experience that I had. So how did I know what his truth was? Up until then, I did not connect what really a guru is, or what guru mantra is, or who he really is. It's after my experience that I went to India to visit.
So, Ritu, let's talk about that experience a little bit, if you don't mind. I know you always say that, you can spend hours talking about it, but just maybe for, the next 5 to 10 minutes, just talking through, what happened and, the whole thing. I know it lasted for many, many, many minutes and hours, but if you can just briefly talk about that. And I think the audience and everybody here would be, would find it very interesting to hear about it. It seemed like it was a culmination of all the things leading up to it, and how you kind of reached kind of that peak. So if you can talk like maybe 5 or 10 minutes about it, that would be great.
Okay. So I had started having a lot of spiritual experiences. I didn't really understand them. And then during that time also, I was getting a lot of dreams, and I would wake up with, there were a lot of images, and I would not understand what the meaning of those dreams were, or what those images were, but they seemed to contain all the answers that I was seeking about life. And it just really tormented me. I was searching for those answers. And in that process, I ended up joining a meditation group at a metaphysical bookstore. And my intent was, well, this is metaphysical bookstore. There has to be some book written by somebody that will explain these dreams to me. And I will talk to, so I would go and look through some of the books. I didn't find anything. And the owner of that bookstore seemed to be a very spiritual person. This particular day, I really, really was desperate to find the answers. So we sat for meditation, and I went really deep. Everybody had left. I did not realize that I was the only one sitting in the room. And then suddenly, when I came out of my meditation, it was 9 p.m. Store was about to close. So I rushed outside. I was like hoping to catch hold of the owner to ask her if she could refer a book to me or something that would explain what answers I was seeking. But she seemed to be in a hurry. So I was like mixture of feeling very peaceful, very good because of the deep meditation, but very disappointed. And I was like, I was expecting some fireworks, some insight, something to download, and nothing had happened. So like disappointed. So in that state, I walked outside. There were only 2 cars in the parking lot, my car and the owner's car. And there was no traffic. It was very side street. So I got in the car and kind of feeling peaceful, but disappointed. And I put on my seatbelt, turned on the ignition key. As soon as I turned the ignition key on, I heard this loudest explosion. And for a split second, I thought my car had exploded. But what I was next moment was this whole space, and I am present, like I'm looking 360 degrees. And there is just, and then I'm just soaking in love. So rest is just describing. I wasn't seeing anything, but just it is purer than pure. It was love that could not be touched. You could not touch it. You could not stain it. And it was like you take a piece of cloth and you dunk it in water and you pull it out, and how the water is just dripping from it. That love was like that, like it was so overflowing. It was so saturated with love that it could not help but the love to drip from it. Mm-hmm. And I started crying. It was just tears and tears rolling from my eyes. It was just that love was so overwhelming. And I am thinking, this is God. This is love. This is love. And next, like I notice, is I'm flying through space. It's dark, and there's these millions of shimmering stars, just like at lightning speed. Of course, I'm going through them, but it feels like they're coming towards me, and they're just in my windshield. They don't touch my windshield. They just come really close to it and just dissolve, disappear. And I'm just flying through space, and I'm crying. And I want to point out that I had no sense of my physical body. Where I am, my physical reality, I'm in the car, I have a body, no sense of that at all. And then the next, it's like when you're in a standard shift car and this like jerk happens, like that it happened, and I became it. So what I call is just love drops that were happening. What I was experiencing was that those love drops are becoming manifest. Every form, everything, animate, inanimate, every blade of grass is just that love drop. And then the next moment with that gear shift, I became that. That was me. I was the one, the love. I was the one from whom these love drops were falling and becoming manifest. And then another gear shift happened. I'm really collapsing it. The whole thing.
Yeah, I know. We've had conversations before where you told me there were like hours of stuff, and just because we can't have that much time being spent on it, I'm asking you to kind of condense it, and I appreciate that. But I think people will get a good feel of what you went through, what was your feeling. Yeah.
And so the next, again, the little jerk happened, and I am now experiencing myself as this cosmic self, which I call like macro me and this mini me. I suddenly became aware that there is something like a mini me that is sitting here. I did not have a sense of here or in the car or where, but here, that there is a mini me. And then I'm seeing like how it completely connected. This macro me and mini me, this cosmic me and mini me is completely connected. And what this cosmic me is wanting to experience its own self through the individualized expression of this mini me. And I am just bawling the whole time, and I'm thinking, where did we go wrong? Where did I go wrong? How did we get off track? Like this hatred, this violence, and this suffering, how do we, like, it's just all love. It's just everything, the essence is love. And all it's wanting to do is experience itself in its unique manifestation. And so I'm still experiencing the stars and all of that. And then suddenly this thought popped in my head, thinking, well, if this is me, who is it who is acknowledging this cosmic presence and mini presence, who's questioning this or having this thought, like, where did I go off track? And then my attention went to something where my physical head would have been, had I been able to experience it, somewhere around the head area, like there was something, some energy field. that was calculating these things and that was aware of all of this that is happening, or is like recording this thing. And then next thing I noticed, first time I noticed my physical reality is I'm pulling into my driveway.
So you had been driving all this while, apparently.
I had been driving this whole time,
Or
highway,
something was driving your car. Who knows?
street
Right?
lights, 40 minutes away. And I pull into my driveway. It's the first time I notice the garage door. And I park my car. So I'm calculating, I did not look at the time. I'm calculating it must have been 10:15 or so at night. So my husband, my two little toddlers, everybody was sleeping. So first time I became aware of my physical body, physical reality. And I'm just still, the tears nonstop are just streaming. And I'm just soaking in love. But I walk in and I noticed my son must have woken up a little bit, or I thought he had woken up. I went into his room, quickly picked him up, held him, rocked him for 2 seconds. He fell back asleep, put him back to bed. So I remember all these things. And then I changed my clothes and I went in the other bed where nobody could disturb me, sat down because I was still just soaking in love. And I sat up in the bed and the whole thing started again, where now I have sounds and I have smells. And so I'm feeling like I'm in this whole dimension of ancient rishis and sages, like chanting mantras, and this holy yagnas are happening, and they're all around me. And these unison, this just chanting is happening, and the smell, it was just indescribable smell, but something, if I have to give an idea, like incense, like sandalwood, but it wasn't sandalwood. It was just beyond description. And this just filling up my nose, my nostrils, my forehead. And this entire time, even when I was driving, why I was also crying, it was felt like I just going to explode into a million pieces. It was just like my nervous system, my body, my cells cannot take that much love. And now on top of that, I have these smells and these sounds and tears rolling, and I could not bear it. I reached a point where just inside of me, I just felt like I'm just going to blast into billion pieces. And something inside me, I just screamed inside me, I cannot take it anymore. And that very instant, everything stopped. And I went to sleep, and it must have been all night, because it felt like I went to sleep and then I just got up, my alarm bell, and then the next day. So in short, that's
now this is astonishing, really, for having, I feel you're blessed to have had that. Quick question. So was that the beginning of you then, finding these, I know you're, you do healing work, you do Reiki, and last time I spoke to you, say you do things that, then you realize that you were doing it, you don't have words for it, and then you realize, oh, what I was doing was possibly Reiki, or what I was. So tell me about, were those kind of skills or powers or some kind of blessings that you feel you got after those spiritual transformative experiences, or were you always having them? Or when did you realize that you could actually put those skills to better other human beings?
So some of these things, like ever since, even when I was a child, I had a lot of like extrasensory perception. I could see auras, I could see energy fields. I could sense earthquakes, the minor earthquakes, even the minor on Richter scale that nobody would even notice until they showed up in the newspaper. I could sense them a couple of days before, lots of those things. So I already had some of those sensibilities. And then when I was a teenager, talking about intuition, I just started doing painting and portraits, like black and white portraits, without ever having studied. I used to fail in my art class in school, but suddenly this came to me where I was winning prizes, first prizes, where I would be competing with students, college students of art classes, and my artwork would be, and people would be asking me, teach us, and like, I have no clue. I have no clue. And when I would start doing it, I would lose track of the whole world. And so I'm thinking like some of those things were already there. So this ability for energy healing, I already probably had it. I never recognized it. Nobody pointed it out. But I was in IT field. I was an IT engineer. A software engineer. And so this was never in my horizon, anything about energy healing or doing hands-on work. But after this experience, there were many before that. But after this, there were some more. But soon after that, I just something inside me just started screaming, this is not what I came here for. This is not what I came here for. And it was just such an obsessively painful realization. And then like, what am I supposed to do? Then my guru also mentioned to me, he said, put your hands on people. And I had no idea what that meant. What? Put your hands on people? So I kind of started seeking, and so it just felt like I need to leave this work. That there is no other way than to leave this work and seek. So that's also a long story. Many beings have been coming my way. You would say, how you can say angels appear before you and help you, guide you, and they disappear. So I attribute that to my guru, that he would appear before me as just someone that looks like you or you, just like that. They would come to me. They seem to know, he or she would seem to know everything about me, would guide me, and then disappear. And so eventually I came, and because I wanted to understand what it all meant and but I had that feeling that something to do with healing, but I had no idea. And then I came across Reiki. And then, but in a part of like the self-doubt, kind of not really believing that much, and not really knowing what I'm supposed to do with it, but being guided to do that. And then how my own son, who was 4 years old at that time, he became one of those angels for me that made me believe. He was having a lot of medical issues where he normally didn't, but he would end up in emergency rooms over and over again. We couldn't medically diagnose. And when one night I did Reiki on him all night, he completely healed permanently. And that was over 25 years ago. And so many other healings happened. And so while I would be doing that, I would intuitively do something like some kind of massage modality, which I had no clue what I was doing, but it would help the person. Then I would go seek, what was it that happened? And so then, this is part of massage where you manipulate the muscles. Okay, I want to learn that. So I learned that. And then similar thing with reflexology, acupressure. So I ended up learning. So things would come to me intuitively. I wouldn't understand. And then I would go seeking for in earth terms, what are these things called?
You were,
And so-
so were you just following an instinct? Were you following some kind of energy field? When you were doing that, not knowing what you were doing, what was that you were doing in that sense?
Mhm.
Was
So
it just
part of
intuition?
that is, are you familiar with the word Kundalini?
Yeah.
The Kundalini is really just the divine life force that's within us. So we work with energy in our body that helps us. We eat food, it converts to energy. We all know that, right? It helps us function. But there is this dormant divine force, the cosmic force that lies dormant on the base of our spine, and it awakens only in certain people. And it can awaken spontaneously for some based on the work they have done in past lifetimes. And it can awaken by an enlightened master's grace. And does it have to awaken in everybody? No, it doesn't. But then in some it does. And what it does, it's like a force of its own. Then once it awakens, it's like your mind and who you are as a body pretty much is, you're like in a supporting role.
Okay.
And the main hero,
The Kundalini force. So
Kundalini becomes.
Yeah.
It's so powerful. Can you stop it with your conscious mind? Many people get scared or whatever. They don't understand because it's unknown. Yes, can you stop it? You can. But if you let it be, then it's pretty much will sort of take over. But it doesn't even have to be that. All the people who channel messages, who are mediums, intuitive psychics, they're doing the same thing, right? They're just kind of putting their mind to the side and then letting whatever energy flows through. If it has to, for me, it came through my hands. For other people, it can come through their mouth where they're speaking, they're channeling, or
Fascinating, Ritu. Fascinating. I think we've had a great conversation for nearly an hour. I would like to open up, here for everybody to ask questions and give their comments, or if there's anything they want to say. So please feel free to raise hands and we'll get started. I know, Jim, you had a question that you wanted, so why don't you go first?
I've been listening to what you had to say, Ritu. I believe that our physical reality is much more malleable, capable of being influenced than we realize. I think part of the problem in the West, this is my opinion, I don't mean to upset anybody, but I think Christianity may have acted as a restraint on our ability to understand that. I've grew up and I'm still active in a Christian church, and the thinking is, Jesus was this perfect person, and we're kind of taught that we could never be like him, that he's sufficiently different from us that.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
You having been from, didn't Jesus say in Bible, you can be this and more?
Yeah, that was going to come to that. There is a passage in the Bible that does say people will come and do even greater things than me. I've seen enough things in my life to know that this typical Western way of thinking of things, Newtonian physics, for example, is too constraining. There's a guy named Bill Bankston who did a controlled experiment. This is in a university. They injected these mice with mammary cancer cells, and in the absence of any treatment, those mice, 100% of them will die within about 27 days. So they used that knowledge to test different drugs. If a drug can prevent a mouse from, 10% of the mice from dying, well, you have a yardstick now to measure the effectiveness of that drug treatment. So Bill had been exposed to a healer who had a technique. It was just called cycling technique, and it's a way of kind of occupying his mind while he handled cages that had these mice that had been injected with these cancer cells. And he found that when they first did this experiment, 100% of the mice survived their cancer. Now, he wasn't praying for them. All he was doing was holding the cage and cycling things through his mind, not thoughts of healing, nothing that would seem to be related to a healing exercise, but somehow he was able to keep 100% of those mice from dying. And over the years now, he's developed this further, and we got a number of universities around the world that are studying this phenomenon. So it's nice to see that we seem to be opening up. There's a capacity. I don't know if it's from within or we can tap into it. I have no idea how it works. But you talked about manifestation. I know people who have, I haven't personally experienced it, but I know people, like you said, you hold out your hands and the dried fruit appeared. And I'm guessing that the volume of the dried fruit that appeared in your hand was far in excess of what he could have been holding in that fist. So as he dropped it, more came out than he could have possibly held. Somehow he was creating something from nothing. We talk about Jesus creating, taking loaves of bread and expanding them and feeding the masses. Well, if we think that only Jesus could do that, then we're always going to be stuck in this kind of low spiritual level understanding of things. If we could open up and understand that we all have divinity within, maybe we could start exploring this and have a lot more success with healing and other things. If we could manifest food, why not do that? I think to get us there, you first have to let go of your expectation that it's impossible to do this.
Right.
So maybe a question to you would be, do you think in India that people are more open to these things because they have gurus around them and examples of things, and we in the West don't have something similar?
Do we have time? Can I take just about 4 or 5 minutes to explain that?
Mm-hmm.
Is that okay? Okay. So I want to bring in the popularly called Hinduism. The actual base for that is Sanatan Dharma. Sanatan Dharma means the eternal truth, the universal eternal truth that applies to every manifested being, human beings. And so what our journey is supposed to be is Sanatan Dharma, that it's the way of life. What is our true nature? So what is the true nature? We are here to be our true nature. So what is the true nature of fire? It's heat. Heat is its true nature. Of ice is coldness. So for human beings, our true nature is our cosmic absoluteness. And that is what we are here seeking, and that's unlimited. So we take this challenge to come into limited field, because mind is just like a tiny speck of grain on this whole ocean, sand, a beach full of sand, and each human being, the mind is like a speck, so it's so limited. And so we are constantly seeking, because we are internally programmed, soft-wired, hardwired, whatever you call it, to seek the expansiveness, for unlimited, right? That's what we're seeking all our lives, unlimited. I want unlimited. I want to be unlimited. And we feel stuck wherever we feel this limit. And our conditioning makes us even more limited. But we are seeking this unlimitedness, and this is Sanatan Dharma. And this knowledge was put into every person, every child who was born would be told, your true nature is cosmic. You are cosmic. You are the source. And now it's your journey, how you get to that, how you remember that. And it is within you. So go within you. And everybody would be put on that path, that it is not outside. Outside is a manifestation of whatever design however you designed it, the reality you wanted it to be. It's external is only a manifestation of that. You use that as a tool, but you go inside. So everybody was put on that inner path journey. And so as you know, India is one of the most ancient lands on the planet. So India was so rich, and it's Sanatan Dharma. It's the capacity to become unlimited that made it so powerful and so strong. And even in wealth, in like external abundance, it was so rich that India was looted and plundered forever in its entire history. Thousands of years of history, people were coming. So India is surrounded by the river called Sindhu. So when the external people were coming, when Persians came, for example, they would call people who live in the geographical area that is near the river Sindhu, they started calling them Hindus because of their language. They started calling them. So Hindu was really a geographical way to denote the people of India. India was called Aryavrata at that time, and one point it was called Bharat. So it was never India at that time, or Hindu. Nobody was called Hindus. It was Sanatan Dharma. And then when other Greece, Alexander came from Greek. The language did not have the ha sound, Hindu. So he called it Hindu. And then when the Mughals came, Muslim rulers came, when they got their rulership on India, they wanted to tax people who were not Muslims. They were trying to convert everybody to become Muslims. And when they wouldn't, they wanted to tax the people as a means to discourage them or to force them to become. So they wanted a way to say, this is Muslim, this is non-Muslim. So what they did was they said, everybody who's a non-Muslim, who's not a Muslim, is a Hindu. And we will tax them. And then India became British colony. Then that Hindu became Hinduism and became India.
So that's fascinating history lesson here. I think moving back to we have a great question that Judy is asking, and I will read it out. It's in the chat as well, but it says, if our purpose for being here is to remember that we are part of total love, why do we forget it in the first place? Why aren't we simply born knowing it? What is the point of first forgetting? I think it's a great question. That's a question that I also had a few years ago, but I think I know the answer, but I'd love to hear what your views are about this, Ritu.
Yeah, so this is a difficult one to really understand from mind. As you all know you've heard near-death experiencers, right? So when people...
We have one here, Jose Hernandez is a very well-known NDE-er.
Uh-huh. So people who have had NDEs, when they go away, even just for 5 minutes, they look at their life and they say, this was just blink of an eye. And why was I fuming and fretting so much? When you are on that other side, this is literally blink of an eye. And it looks very, very long, and it looks suffering, and it looks like that. But it is an illusion in that sense. It's not an illusion when we're in this reality. Just like when you're sleeping and you're dreaming. In the dream, you could be chased by lions and being bitten up and bleeding and screaming, and hurricane came, and all of those things happen. And in the dream, that is so long and so real. But then in that dream, you don't realize that you are just very calmly laying in your bed, sleeping. But when you wake up from that dream, you say, oh, that was just a dream. Oh, thank goodness, that was just a dream. So, so it's how to explain that. In this reality, it looks like it's very long and it is never ending. But out of this reality, it's literally like a blink of an eye. And because the illusion of the time, mind, what is mind? Is the illusion of time and space. So because in my experience also, when that STE I talked about, there was no time, no space.
So back to the question I think I'm curious about is, what would be the purpose of not remembering all this? There must be something we gain by forgetting everything that we started with.
So then one of the ways I can explain it is like why do we play video games? Why do we play any games? Why do we play like card games, right? We want to just for the thrill of it, for the challenge of it. Why do you want to suffer through playing a video game? Because you want to get to the new, you want to realize what my capacity is. Oh, I'm level 1. Now I'm level 2. I got to level 5. And what is my capacity? So this is like hardwired inside us. I want to know what my potentiality is. So see, we come back to the Sanatana Dharma, the questioning, what is my potential? I want to become unlimited. What is my potential? And I go through this difficult challenge, just like a video game is challenging. Olympics. Why do you want to be an Olympic gold medalist? Why not just sit at home? What drives an Olympic gold medalist to work, challenge themselves 20 hours a day for 20 years so they can just go get a medal? Why put yourself through so much torture? But because you want to. So it becomes something you're driving towards because you want to know your own potential. I want to be this gold medalist. What is my potential? What can I achieve? And so it becomes my expression of finding a way of finding myself. Now, it would be ideal if I could just joyfully find it, forget it, and then joyfully find it. But it so happens that most of us want it through pain, want it for pain to push us towards finding those, like it happened with me. And it happens with many people. So it is very difficult to comprehend why we would want to put ourselves through that. But there is, once you get to the other side or awaken that, then you literally see everything like it was just momentary. And it dissolves. So it's just like when you're having you're in a classroom and it's the most boring class. Every 5 minutes look like 5 years. But if you're having fun, 5 days will go by like 2 minutes. So time is just a concept of mind, and that is the heaven and hell. It's all your state of mind. So if you're enjoying it, and then it looks much faster. But if you're not, then it appears to be very much longer than it is. So 80 years of life for someone could be 5 minutes, and 80 years for somebody could be 80 lifetimes.
I wonder if the experiences that we have here and the lessons that we learn enhance what we are capable of experiencing when we're on the other side.
Yes. So what Sanatan Dharma teaches us, and what my guru has told me, that one of the reasons we choose this human life, because this is one of the hardest dimensions to come into, most difficult dimension to come into. It's like stock market. If you want your stock if you want to become rich tomorrow, like in very fast, what do? You take that much more risk, right? High risk. The capacity is your risk taking. If you can totally lose everything, or you can become a millionaire very soon based on high risk stock. So planet life, human life is like we are the risk takers. So we are always progressing in all dimensions, but if you can progress, not just remember, but progress while in human body, then in Sanatan Dharma, they say you become, like they say, Brahma is the source, like you're even greater than the source. Whatever there is beyond the source, you become that. So in Sanskrit, they'll call Par Brahma. So if there is a guru who is not just enlightened, but has mastered the energies the way my guru has, and I place Jesus, Buddha, all in the same category, they are called Par Brahma. So you have that capacity, and it's said that all the heavenly beings are very jealous of all the human beings because they cannot progress like we can. So it is either it's like stock market. Either you will go really down, like completely lose your way, or you will become Par Brahma. So that is why many of the souls will take this risk I just want to just reach the very top. So I want to take this risk. So we are amazing, courageous beings that have this unlimited capacity to reach that. So that is why, because the aim is so high, not like few people are able to, like it takes just harder work. It's just like if I want to win a match against the school nearby, or I want an Olympic gold medalist, you have much more at stake. You will have to work that much harder. You will have to put in that much more effort to manage your mind. And what is really in the way is just the mind. So,
Niraj, you had some thoughts on this. I'm curious as to what, if everything you think.
I think there is a good question that's sitting here from Mark. Ritu, Mark is asking, how can people have some of the experience you have had? Should we pursue spiritual experiences? Should we meditate? Should we just wait and let it happen when we are ready for it?
No to the first one, yes to the second one, and no to the third one. This is just from everything that I have learned and I have experienced. The conclusion from that is meditation. Yes. So everything is about managing your mind. So mind is what gives you this sense of false identity. So it is like I am driving a car and I think I am the car. What is that? That's false identity, right? So I say, Neeraj, who are you? And you say, oh, I am this Lexus, brown Lexus, black or gray Lexus. You are not that gray Lexus. You are somebody who is driving that. So what is making you think you are this gray Lexus instead of this being that is driving this car is the mind. So mind is this illusory element that is planted, a chip that gets planted that makes us think I am this body, I am this, whatever my external reality is, and forgetting that I am the cosmic consciousness. So how do we do that is we have to stop the mind chatter. And how do we get to stopping mind chatter? If we can get to it right away, that's awesome. But normally we can't. So we need to concentrate. And so mind is like constantly fluctuating. So we first become mindful. We help it to concentrate on one thing. And then eventually by ignoring whatever the mind chatter is going on, and it's just not the mind, just your emotions, like you be fully present without reacting to it, which will eventually lead to mind just quietening down. And when the mind is that veil, when that quietens down, then the whatever you are meant to experience will come through it. If you just go directly for the experience, then it's your mind that's wanting the experience. So not only now you've strengthened your mind to be present there. So we go in without any expectations, just to focus on one particular thing that brings you joy, or Guru mantra, or image of whoever you resonate with, connect with, Lord Jesus, Buddha, whoever, or the word peace or love, whatever. So from concentration into quietening the mind. And that is where all the light that starts. So everything in NDE experiences, you can experience without having to die, without having to go through the hospital and the nurses and the medicines. You can do all of that. But
sorry, Ritu, Agatha had a question, if you don't mind. And I know we're kind of going to be running out of time soon. So Agatha, you had a question?
Yes, I understand what you're saying of not having expectations, because I experience that when I'm doing something, just putting myself into it, I get more results than when I'm expecting something out of it. Either if it's be done with the work or be present. If I'm doing it just for the pleasure of doing it, I get much more results, even when I'm not looking for it. But it contradicts a little bit what I understood from your story when you were saying, like, you were getting out of that bookstore with these mixed feelings of peace, but at the same time, why? This disappointment. You wanted to have answers. You wanted more. And I think, and I understood at that moment when you were saying that your motivation of wanting why, wanting to understand, it took you to that experience. So how do you explain that not having the expectation yet having the questions?
So for mindfulness, yes, of course, we are human beings without the desire to, you have the pain and then you have a goal also. You want to understand some things, and that is the desire of something greater. I want to be, and I want to feel free. I want to feel, I go from inside, I want to feel free. That's what I wanted. So there is a desire, but I'm mentioning when you sit down for meditation, what we call meditation or mindfulness, at that time, we drop the expectations, because at that time, otherwise it's our mind wanting to know something. And it's the mind that we are trying to not pay attention to. So in a way, while we are at that point, it's just, I'm just sitting and I am not going to react to anything, and I'm not going to desire for anything, and other than to desire to just sit there and be completely present to whatever thoughts or feelings that are coming up within me, and not react, and not imagine that I will see some lights, or I will have some answers, or I will have, not at that time. Because
Sure.
otherwise that mind comes in the way, because it's like then the mind is looking with the torch, what am I getting? Now, there are all different ways of, you can't just jump from A to Z, and, little by little, it's concentrating. And then sometimes you sit down with the intent of getting some messages, because at that, just like when you are in theta wave state, when you are falling asleep, about to fall asleep, you are between fully awake and then ready to fall asleep. In that time period, some answers come to you. You could be questioning something. You're in a more relaxed state. Just like with hypnosis also, that's what they do. They put you in a more relaxed state, so your conscious mind is not so present as a block. And that
it's funny that you mentioned this, because for a very long time now, when I'm about to fall asleep, I hear this voice saying, I love you. And it's just that. And then I kind of wake up and question, what is this voice? And I don't have the answers. I don't even know if I have to respond or just take it or what it is, but it's always this, I love you.
Well, I would suggest at that time, just flow with it and see what happens. Don't question what it is. Because at that time, then the mind comes in. And now we're wanting to understand consciously. And so just let it be, and then just soak in that feeling. Just let that feeling, be present with that feeling and see where it takes you. And
all right, thank you.
Yeah, I think the key there is the expectation. When you start adding expectations to those experiences, you, as we call in Buddhist philosophy, your monkey mind takes over. What you're saying is you're trying to channel that feeling into certain areas. And it's good sometimes when you're actually wanting to do, when you reach a certain stage in your meditation. But if you're starting meditation or mid-level and you try to do it, then you're probably going to get wrong insights. So what you want are insights that are true insights that are coming from either within you as the I am, or, what you call this, super consciousness. But if you try to channel it in certain ways and try to maneuver it, then what you're really doing is called monkey mind in Buddhism. You're chattering with it. And when you chatter with it, no insight is going to come.
so, and I want to add what you just said, Neeraj, and this is the power of the mind. That's why I believe in Bible, what we call as Satan, is really the mind. So mind is so powerful
Well,
that
there's a terminology problem here, Ritu. So in Buddhist, the mind is what we call a soul. So yes, we understand. It's the intellect, the
intellect.
yes, the one that does the functions as a human. That is the one you want to avoid when you're doing meditation and insightfulness. The mind in, again, Buddhist philosophy is a good thing. It's what makes the
And it is good thing. It's your best friend because it helps you have this human experience. Without mind being able to calculate your past experiences, what your name. If today I forget what my name is and who I am, then this human journey is useless to me.
Yes, you need that. Of course,
I can't
absolutely
function.
need it. You absolutely need that, and you absolutely need to
So it's
have that.
it is your biggest friend and it's your biggest enemy.
Right.
What do you want to make of it? That power is within you. You want to make it your best friend or you want to make it your worst enemy. So
With those words, is there any other questions? Anything else anybody has for Ritu? Any suggestions? Please say so now. Otherwise, we're close to the 8:30 mark. Like I said, I like to keep it at 90 minutes if possible. But if there are more things we need to talk or want to talk, we can go ahead. Anybody? If not, well, thank you very much. Thanks, Ritu, again for coming and providing us this, great information, and your life experiences are truly, truly inspiring. Thank you so much.
thank you so much.
Thank you, Ritu.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. So
Thanks,
blessed.
everybody. Have a good night. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.